Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, we are going to be diving into a new storyline, which has to deal with Noir, now renamed to LUNO. Boo, the newly appointed R5, apparently is not the R5 anymore. The KVK diplomacy situation that went down between LUNO, other kingdoms within their KVK, the YY versus Boo discussions, and then what does the Noir slash LUNO leadership think about all of this? That's what we're going to be discussing today and showing off, and I'll be throwing out my opinions here and there. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up because it helps out a lot. Okay, so before we get into some screens, let me just kind of show you the current state of the land with how Kingdom 5 is and where they kind of have their... Again, I don't know if it's one lead now or if it's two. Again, they do have something here where it says Mesh's Nunu or Aaron for recruitment, so it's probably not necessarily hard lead or hard R5, so maybe they're doing some kind of rotation. I'm sure maybe we'll figure that out in some of the messages that we'll look in. But from what I understand, Boo is not there anymore. He's not in management. I'm not sure if he's still playing the game. We'll see if some of those screenshots are going to illuminate some things for us as we go down the line. So let's move over and take a look. So there's quite a few we're going to show you, and everything's kind of in order that way on purpose. So these were some of the initial conversations that were provided by Boo and or whomever else from the COD Gen Chat. I want to point out that I did reach out to Boo and ask, just to try to ask some questions and get some clarity from his perspective. I was met with a no comment, just not interested. As always, completely fine. I reached out to YY. I got a couple lines that I'll share, but nothing that was kind of, above anything or really kind of out of, left field. And then again, as I said, I reached out to LUNO Noir management. They actually had a decent amount to share, but let's go through this. So saying, Boo, you're looking for the most equal distribution. One way of fair, I don't fault you. I'm looking for earned distribution. Our guys do count on us work for a decision. Again, I say, let's see what Zoo says. And if it's still split, take it out of our hands and let the fighters decide on the map. It's the lesser evil than either of us agreeing to disappoint our guys. End of day, people will think we get one crystal for teaming winning, and the dragon, at least we all had a say to get it on the field. Let me know if you can voice chat for a few minutes. And then YY says, what's there to discuss? You've already made your stance known. Wanted to explain more, but if you're not interested, sure, just take it for what it is. And then we get kind of what I think is just a hammer of a post. Billionaires like myself usually are not available on demand, but I will remember this. Boo Boo hits us with the ditto. We could be fun enemies in the future. Close out the season in good faith as is, and in the future will be fun to beat up and entitled guy like you. Cheers. I just love how they're both kind of presenting this passive aggressive approach on the language and text chosen to be posted. Now, I think one of the things to be very clear in the beginning is that we're Boo stating that, some people are looking for equal distribution. And I believe the vote from what I saw was 3-1 in favor of equal distribution, not earned distribution or contributing distribution. And so the way I kind of look at it like that is, listen, as long as you're putting it to a vote, and also keep in mind that these things can kind of go one of two ways. If you have strong alliances that want to compete against each other, you can make a very big case for earned distribution because people will want to competitively try and do as much PvP against their opponents as possible. However, you also have to understand that some of the kingdoms who may not be able to equally participate for that number one spot in an earned distribution format or or kind of point system, they will probably be more inclined to go for equal distribution because they know they probably won't be able to compete, right? So in this case, I would imagine that OO and LUNO would have been the two kingdoms amongst their team that could really battle it out for number one. Now, and I mean like number one in whatever whatever metrics they're accumulating. So if it's merits, if it's kills, deads, etc. However they're doing that, I would imagine those two kingdoms/alliances are probably more on the forefront of having a higher percentage chance to be able to vie for number one. So it appears, however, based on this, that the other two kingdoms in this out of four vote opted for equal. LUNO and Boo wanted earned, and then YY and OO, or at least two of them, YY and OO were okay with doing equal, and they were waiting for, as they said, Zoo. Again, I think it's good to have conversations about that in the beginning of a season, so that way you can figure out what system do you want to apply. And if you're going to do a vote for those things, do it in the beginning. Don't do it later. Just figure out what everyone wants to do. Because if you can do it in the beginning and just kind of knock it out of the way compared to doing it later, to me, it just feels like it really solves a lot more potential problems than it may create. Okay. And then obviously the next one is the billionaires like myself are not usually available on demand. So I guess the part of me is like, where Boo's saying he wants to VC, I guess part of me feels like, and I get it to an extent, because I very much am the type where if I can VC in certain situations, I would like to, because I just feel like talking over texting is a lot more efficient way of communicating, especially if you prefer or if you feel that you can convey your message easier and maybe more in fuller context and detail in voice over text. But anyone and everyone can really write down what their thoughts are in text. I just also think voice gives you an opportunity to have your tone shared and known for how you're coming across. So yeah, obviously, absolutely hilarious there. Next one. Brother, I enjoyed working you. Yes, us deciding to work together led to this win. If Zoo was in your camp, I was going to support you getting into season. Most deserving is always my standing principle. Okay. I get it. I don't have an account, so I don't need it personally, but likewise, would my side feel disrespected based off its contribution? I mean, yeah, I think, again, as I stated, this to me just very much feels like a simple case of, hey, have these discussions early on. Now, maybe they did have these talks during diplomacy before the season started. Maybe they happened before Zone 2 opened, and this is just continued conversation at that point. However, I think it's pretty apparent that, as of when these messages started to arise, at least based on how it feels with the votes, this was later on in the season prior to Final Zone, from what I understand. So once again, I just would have liked to maybe seen some of these happen a little earlier, and or just be okay with whatever the decision is, instead of maybe trying to kind of go and sway people via individual DMs. It's like, look, just talk it out in the group chat, do your vote, and then just say yeah. Because that could be another angle that it could be looked at as well, is that, okay, well, maybe Boo was going to YY and trying to kind of turn the vote. In that case, did Boo maybe go over to other people, Zoo, the other alliances that were there in that KVK, or the other fourth, and say, hey, let me pitch you my idea for why I think we should do earned distribution. I feel like if you're someone who's typically reaching out in DMs to try and sway a vote in one way to one person, there's probably a more than likely chance you did it to the other people. So again, my view is like, look, have a conversation out in open public, do it in your group chat, or if it's a Diplo Discord, and then let everyone cast their vote, and then just kind of go with it the way it is. Sometimes it'll end up your way, and sometimes it may not end up your way. But I think the most important thing is we have to be okay with what it is, because keep in mind, the most important thing I feel that really comes out of a KVK season is the win, is the value, is the reputation, is the acknowledgement, the awareness, the marketing that comes with that, and also the fact that it reduces the amount of your player drop off in your kingdom. Don't get me wrong, this isn't to say that rewards or any kind of end of season rewards should not be a priority to an extent, but I'd very much truly believe there are a lot more pros than cons when we look at, are we prioritizing the win of a KVK, or are we prioritizing end of season rewards when we haven't won the KVK yet? So, and again, I'd love to know what you guys think, whether you agree or disagree with that, and why. Okay, now let's get to some Gen Chat screenshots. This is where we start getting a little bit more information now. Which account Boo is flying? That billionaire can suck my stomach. Oh boy. I'm not telling. I'm on Boo's payroll. Let me see. That's about who's getting dragon. I don't know. Some Korean people use Korean. Who's getting a Zoo betrayed the warband. Interesting. 3-1 vote. I call him 7. And again, I don't know how he claims Zoo betrayed the warband. Again, it obviously would be difficult for me to get any answers because he wasn't interested in providing any or clarity when I had initially reached out. Boo, we saw the chat. You getting dominated. In other words, Zoo deserves it, not Luno, is what I'm getting out of that message, Boo. So who is getting dragged? I heard it's Zoo for their hardcore fighting. Zoo did way less than Luno for their power. Zoo is a good ally, actually. A lot of Chinese whales. Zoo deserves it the most. OO is getting dragon, though. Zoo don't have Boo. That's an automatic win for Zoo. The shots that are just being fired. Zoo don't have... number of players... make massive difference. TFS are also small alliance in our KVK, but they had been hard carrying their warband for the entire season. Hell no, Luno deserves it more than Zoo. What OO is getting dragon? That's crazy. Zoo and OO will continue working together next season. I sort of civil war over that. Boo just said Zoo voted 3-1 in favor of giving it to Squigglies because of YY's threat. And again, I don't know if there was a threat by YY because again, I haven't seen any screenshots to indicate that. Luno had more merits than Zoo while having 100 players. Touche. Next one. What is O getting dragon? They not even top 5 in the KVK, bro. I never saw them. They just play TOC. Honestly, no one gives an F about dragon. O didn't get their necro, I think, so they're down 1 crystal. Make it up by getting the dragon. Dang, bro. I've heard they want fair distribution. Y'all gonna get defeats in your COD sheets. Jeez. None of Zoo's. Luno's concern. What allies do with their zone 3 territory. People will always care about dragon, I feel, just for bragging rights, if nothing. But we were talking about who deserves it. To be honest, Luno should 100% get dragon. They could always long march to help their allies in zone 3, right? Fair distribution is not related to commitment. No, Luno is useless. Without Luno, there is no SWO or Zoo near dragon. Oh, sorry, SWOO is Zoo near dragon. Tell that to the alliance is teleporting across to other zone 3 after dragon, a 4v1 or 4v2 their enemy. Okay. I'm saying from the opposite standpoint, no internal. Luno was by far the best. 100%, not even close. They hard carried that KVK. I laughed a bit when I saw this, though. I mean, am I wrong? No, you're right. Billionaire Baby's first and only response was to start throwing a tantrum after season ends and where enemies expect many memes. Now, again, shockingly, you know what? I didn't actually go through... Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if there's been any memes. I wish I would have went to go take a look. After the season ends and enemies. Now, this is interesting, right? Because the part about throwing a tantrum, again, I haven't seen any screenshots to indicate any threats, tantrums, or otherwise coming out of YY or the OO camp. So I'm curious if maybe some people will come out the woodworks and maybe provide that after the fact. Okay, memes broke Sato, they will break YY. Oh, jeez. Okay, he just says he knows where I stand, and then Hermes pings YY. Jeez. Okay, so wait, Boo quit. Excuse me, and relations fell apart in that camp. That's what I read earlier. He uninstalled. Now camp good. Luno can just blame me, distance from me, and good. Boo quit. Other R5 took position. Just Boo not happy with the rewards. Okay, that's what I read earlier. Well, that was a short reign. I mean, more or less. Well, Boo was only filling for a bad R5 that imploded it all. Boo next season will be at Oath. I bet my money on it. Do you intend... what is this? Do you intend for EAS to be A tier again? Shots fired. Jeez. I already have half of Wave 2 filled out. I didn't quit over that. I quit over Alliance's unanimous decision to not migrate and merge. Someone else volunteered to lead Alliance... to lead the Alliance the way they wanted. So I walk into the sunset. Okay, seems pretty straightforward. So... then we get here. Why mad? No. Go back to Luno. He got outvoted on horse distribution. Another problem. Just take dragon, easy peasy. We will see them. We want to see them try. I don't even know what. I don't even know what KVK, but you want to take it. They want. He'll just make a letter trash talking. Oh geez. Where is it? Oh, Zoo betrayed the warband. Again, curious on where the whole Zoo betraying the warband thing is. Now that I think about it, maybe I should have reached out to Zoo and just asked them, like, hey, where's this whole, like, betraying the warband thing coming from? But again, right, maybe that'll be in a follow-up video. I don't know who Zoo is, to be honest. Natty Boy Billionaires like me. Went from glazing Zoo to saying they betrayed just because they voted OO to get Dragon in less than 24 hours. Basically, let Amber's even OO needs a Dragon map is trash. What about Necro? OO don't have Necro, so they wouldn't get second tier compendium. Okay. So I wonder if that's the case then, right? Because that's not the first person to say that they didn't have Necro. Now maybe that ended up and changed differently for how the KVK ended up playing out. But let's just say going down one path that was the case. Does that make it more of a curiosity on people voting them in? On top of that, did YY or OO reach out to other alliances saying, hey, we should do it this way? Did everyone just kind of vote on their own without having any outside or individual contact or influence being made? Right? That's always the interesting thing that sometimes comes out after the fact. Okay, just how many fires? So I'm giving you Dragon, releases Dragon. Not many, almost 1 month. Why I get LUNO or why I get 4 LUNO recruitment messages on my farm accounts. I'm like, well, poor people. As much as people want to troll why the entire screenshot just shows that Boo won't try to give his allies a fair deal, but would just try to take everything. Why you guys hating? OO doesn't have Necro because they prioritize defending Zone 2 instead of fight for Zone 3, despite the Warband's advice, and also because now they don't want to 4v2 for Necro because YY doesn't want to spend 2 RSS heal fund his alliance more. Okay. They long march and go help them. Simple. The long march. I mean, yeah, I guess. Okay. So now we're going to transition some screens here, and we're going to share what is some votes. Some voting that came out. This was shared to me by the LUNO leadership team. And so you see here, right, we have a couple. And I think this one actually shows the whole thing, right? I want to stay, I want to merge, I'm happy. Oh, I guess it's a different one. So this one, right? I will bleed and stay LUNO no matter what, right? So it's 38 people. Depends on our plans to grow the season, 22. So that could be up to, what, 50, 60 people? I am considering migrating out. 17, I have plans to migrate out, right? So you could have, what, 60 staying, maybe up to 23 leaving. And, you know, I would argue those are probably conservative numbers because that just depends if every single person in the alliance voted. But that's 60 plus 23, that's 83 people. If they have a few more, right, there could be some middle ground there or some other X factors depending on what they decide to do. And then we get the next one, which is which option best describes your preferred way forward next season. So I want to stay 56. Now, I don't know which one of the votes came first or last. But this one says I want to stay. It's 56. I want to merge, 1 vote. I think that was Boo because we got the reaction screenshot that was sent about that. I am happy with both and will follow majority. So it's 9. Okay, so that puts you up to 65. So I'm happy with both. I prefer to stay, but we'll also explore my options. I prefer to merge. I would pursue my own. So it looks like you have up to maybe 65 at that point that you can get in, at least from this vote. Okay. Now, I think the part about the merging thing and staying is that it just depends on how strongly you feel about being able to build back up your kingdom from where it is. And this is why I think you have a lot, I don't say a lot, but a decent amount of kingdoms and alliances that are opting to go to dead kingdoms so they can rebuild. Why? Because they're already thinned out and lean, meaning that they don't have a lot of excess inactive accounts, low activity players, people that maybe are low contribution to PvP and they just don't have enough permits to migrate or they don't want to, and so they're kind of inflating the kingdom power. If you don't feel like that's the case in Kingdom 5 and you don't have any amount or barely any inflated power there that would affect your KVK matchmaking and or your kingdom status as it pertains to migration, then okay. I think you're okay to stay and just kind of work on the rebuild or work on the expansion and kind of bringing in some new blood. However, if that's not the case, then I would almost argue looking into options such as a possible rebuild is okay to do. Doesn't mean that you maybe have to go through with it, because obviously it'll also depend on how many people are interested in doing that and would actually come with you and the necessary amount of permits that those individuals would have to buy if so. Okay, next. So as I said, I had reached out to YY. I think this was maybe about 2 weeks ago. And this is just kind of standard, right? I actually thought this was funny. So I'd asked, I said, hey, are you able to shed any light on how the discussions went between you and Boo or OO and LUNO for end of season KVK rewards? Boo made it seem from posts that it was a difference between equal distribution versus contribution distribution. Or is there more to it? Thank you for your time. Response is just, who is Boo? I mean, I get it. I feel like he was trolling a little bit. But maybe there was a very hint, a sprinkle of just like, I'm done with this honesty. So I don't know, it's funny. And then I had asked, he said, it is as simple as 3 out of 4 alliances agreed to have even rewards. 2 out of 4 alliances don't merit trade, and robust data was shared with all members. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. Then we get this letter. Now, in the letter, I saw this, and I did not... it's funny. I just found this. I was sifting through the Gen Discord, and I saw that this was posted from Boo. And because it appears that he may have quit, we will go ahead and read this. The Office of Boo the Greatest, 2023, 2020. I mean, technically we're in 2025. The end to an era of greatness. Attention, COD community. Today is a day of celebration and despair for all of you. The reason to celebrate is that now you might win because you will not have to face me again. The reason to despair is because you will miss my battlefield prowess, my ingenuity, my riz, my humor, my good looks, and yes, my addendums, no cap. I don't know what Boo looks like, so I'd have to see a picture first. In reflection, as I imagine others would have to as well, I've had the most impact on this game. Depending on the field, I would argue yes. I have been in 10 different alliances and R4 of most. BDO, NK, DSASC, TNSFS, TFS, Echo, LUNO, Noir. I would argue Noir equals LUNO. I would have put a hyphen, not a comma. Everyone loved me in all of those alliances until I left them and they became bitter ex-girlfriends. I mean, that's kind of rough to imagine and assume that the gentlemen in those alliances opted for sex changes and just wanted to get in touch with their inner femininity. Femininity? Yeah, we're going to go with that. Or their inner feminine. We'll say that, right? Their inner Girl Scout. Regardless, that's bold. LUNO still loves me, though, because of my selfless sacrifices. No one has talked with more people and drove more people to success than I. Otherwise, except for a handful of people, mods, e-girls, S1, R5s, no one has been talked about more than me. It's good stuff. I was the greatest war general in this game. I've never lost a KVK in which I led war strategy from beginning of season 5-0, nor a single row team one that I was involved in leading 20-0. People will try to win, but when they don't, always remember that if I was there leading, you would have won 100%. It's bold cut. The amount of winning across all this time and all these alliances has been unparamount and a testament to my greatness. No one will ever be as accomplished as me. I'm going to be honest, I feel like he's landed on real thick. Like thicker than a Snicker thick. My dynasty was greater than Boston Celtics and New England Patriots. I have been more impactful in this esport than Tom Brady. You will talk about my greatness to your grandkids one day. Damn! Jeez. None of this is make-believe. It is all proven history. I will now pursue other challenges for victories in a new game that sucks less. Oh, in new games that suck less. Naturally, in your future games, when you meet more boos, you'll wonder if it's me. Just ask about my war pets and you'll know the truth. The end of your golden age has come and you will miss me. To the lucky 10 that are still on my friends list, congrats. You have earned the opportunity to gossip with greatness. Again, to those I hated, you will be forgotten shortly, but still continue to suck. And to the rest, adieu. Boo. I don't know if he meant to rhyme there at the end. All right. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. Now, let's get, as we close things off, with what did the LUNO leadership team experience and think about Boo, along with their thoughts on the season. So this one, and keep in mind, Funk is the one who responded, but this was collaborated with their leadership team and approved to be written up and provided and shared with me. So thank you guys so much. It's always nice, I want to say, and this maybe is like a post-Sato era, but it is nice when you're able to have some form of dialogue and discussion or conversation with management teams from alliances. And it's interesting how sometimes when an R5 leaves, that it can open the door up for renewed conversation and rapport to be established and or reestablished again. So huge shout out and thank you to the LUNO/Nawar team for being willing to share and take the time to write this up. So what happened to Boo's exit? Boo envisioned a merger for LUNO, believing it to be the best path forward based on an earlier poll he conducted as R5, which indicated that many members were considering leaving. This was before the poll you mentioned that voted in NUNO. His plan was to serve as co-R5 and lead war efforts in the merged alliance. While his dedication to leading LUNO during this transition was hugely appreciated, concerns arose regarding his leadership style and how it would impact LUNO's long-term sustainability. He made major decisions independently without much input from the council and often took a taskmaster approach rather than fostering shared leadership. This approach was divisive, which was likely reflected in the initial poll results, with some wanting to leave. Interesting. In response, NUNO and the LUNO Council proposed an alternative path, staying in S5 and rebuilding under new leadership. The overwhelming support for this option compared to the earlier poll that assumed Boo's continued leadership made it clear that members wanted a different direction. Since Boo had stepped in without an active playable account and had no skin in the game, so to speak, he decided in advance that he would not continue under this new structure if it was voted in. Once the vote was decided, Boo wrote his farewell letter to LUNO, fully supporting NUNO as R5, thanking the whole alliance and wishing us well. Oh, that's nice. While also bragging about himself as only Boo can. I mean, that sounds about right. Touche. That's funny. That made me laugh. And peacefully passed off R5 to NUNO, effectively quitting the game. Okay. There's quite a bit here. This is interesting to me where he says Boo envisioned a merger for LUNO, maybe with another kingdom going somewhere else, believing it to be the best path forward. Now, I don't know if Boo looked at the numbers in the kingdom. Did he look at the stats? Did the data indicate? And I'm talking about aside from any votes that were done, right? Because you need to look at how healthy is your crop? How healthy is your farm, right? Is your land? Meaning, as I alluded to earlier, how many players there are inflated dead weight or just inflated non-contributing power of accounts? And if you, like I said, if you don't have a lot, then I think rebuilding or at least trying to do that first before you consider merging. And now keep in mind, it could have been merging. It could have been just moving to a dead kingdom to rebuild. It didn't only have to be merging with another alliance. And the fact is that sometimes if people opt to leave, it could either be because one, they just don't like the direction the alliance is going. Maybe they feel like they're not heard. Maybe they just don't want to make the effort to even speak up. But then two, sometimes it can be because they just feel like there is no good option at that point, or they feel like maybe whoever is leading is not making the best options for the alliance. I mean, there can be any number of reasons. And so I think this helps to illuminate a little bit more. Obviously, there's, I'm sure, screenshots here and there could probably help provide further context. But given that this is a joint statement from the LUNO leadership, I would tend to believe that there's probably a little bit more truth than there is fluctuation, right, or inflation to this. And so if that's the case, then to me, I don't know if merging really is the best idea. To be honest, if it was me and I was leading LUNO, I would first look to do a resurgence within the kingdom, right? It's how can we make this work without moving? Because moving should always kind of be a last option, I believe, after you've exhausted all options internally. And then if you are looking to move and you have a decent amount of people, I would argue going to a dead kingdom and rebuilding will always be better than merging, unless you have a very small group. But let's say they had 60, 70 people that were interested in doing that based on some of those polls for staying. Again, I would still have argued going to a dead kingdom and then maybe merging with another kingdom alliance would have been the very last option to consider. So, okay. And I think this is interesting where they said something about how where is it? Made it stepped in, playable. Yeah. He decided in advance that he would not continue under this new structure if it was voted in. So this is interesting to me because with this line, it kind of indicates that Boo wanted it kind of his way or the highway, or maybe just viewed it as to Boo, this was the only viable option that he saw. And if this was not going to be the option that we went down with, then he just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. Now, part of that I could argue is probably due to maybe a little bit lack of experience being an R5. And I say that, and I'm not talking about a decision that you feel is prioritized over another. What I'm really talking about is being able to have a universal understanding that you as an R5 are a steward. You are there to be responsible and accountable for the players in the alliance. And you also need to understand that with Boo being a new R5, him coming in within that season and then proposing that we merge and essentially arguably almost lose either all of our identity, and that's only if we're not able to get our own shell, right? Because that would mean that they'd have to go to a kingdom merging wise and have their own alliance shell compared to merging into another alliance, which at that point you're kind of losing your identity. So you really have to think about this in a bigger picture, which is that what Boo was recommending and advocating for was almost which could have been stated in the worst case as a complete removal of LUNO Noir's identity and their self and their being. And I almost wonder if some people in LUNO/Noir felt that way. So part of me would look at it like that, is that to me, it felt like it was a little bit of self-awareness, a little bit of experience, and maybe some knowledge areas. It's not to say that I think Boo's decision here on him feeling that merging is absolutely wrong in any way, but I just think that there's other factors that he may not have considered right before proposing that. That I probably would have taken a moment to think about before doing so. Next one, what happened between Boo and YY? Boo strongly believed that LUNO deserved the dragon reward for our contributions to the KVK this win. His argument was that the strongest warband, LUNO plus Zoo, should claim dragon, even though this would result in an uneven end of season reward split, 3 ambers for our camp and 1 for YY's camp. YY understandably saw this as an unfair distribution since we had coordinated and fought together in the final zone. Excuse me. Zoo leadership ultimately agreed with YY's stance, which Boo viewed as a betrayal from both YY and Zoo. After the alliance voted to stay under Nunu's leadership, LUNO reaffirmed to our allies that we did not see it as a betrayal and fully supported the decision for YY's camp to take dragon in order to ensure a fair reward split. Okay, so I mean, listen, if you're trying to get that and you have the majority of management does not have necessarily a problem with that, at least coming from LUNO, then yeah, I feel like that's pretty straightforward. I guess it seems as like it was really just being more advocated for, by Boo from what they're saying. Okay. I mean, the way I kind of think about it, man, is like you kind of have to know if this is the decision and the time to kind of die on your hill, right? Like, is this the hill you want to die on? Because to me, this felt like such a smaller issue. And it's not to say that, and to take away anyone's feelings of that you maybe would have rather had some kind of earned or contributing distribution versus equal distribution. But for your R5 to advocate so heavily for that, or however heavily it was, when you have your management team being okay with it, along with the fact that it wasn't even OO, but it was, in this case, Zoo who voted for that, which also is not voting to say you get less, it's just saying, hey, you get an equal amount. I don't know. I just don't know if that's the hill to die on for me. Next one, how was Boo as R5? There are multiple perspectives on Boo's leadership. I'll try and offer you a few. A strong hand during a difficult time. Boo stepped up as R5 when LUNO was struggling, despite having already sold his account with the intent of leaving CoD entirely. His leadership helped keep the alliance together. Okay. And his war leading was exceptional. He created a strong sense of identity within LUNO and put in significant effort to rally members. Okay. That actually seems like a nice positive. Overbearing and inflexible leadership. Due to his level of commitment and sense of responsibility, Boo was firm in his belief that he had full authority over all aspects of the alliance. Ooh, so got it. So he basically drank the Kool-Aid, got a little drunk on that. Pow, pow. Leadership decisions were primarily his own, with council and R4s given tasks rather than autonomy over key areas. This put strain on leadership as we wanted to maintain unity while also ensuring that LUNO's direction truly reflected its members. So basically, it sounds like they're saying that they wanted to have like direct positions within the management team, as in, hey, you're doing row, you're in charge of behemoths when we're in the field, so you're Beastmaster. You're doing data, you're doing member relations, etc. You're doing diplomacy, recruitment. And it sounds like what he's saying, or what they're saying, is that Boo provided more individual tasks. Okay. I mean, I think the challenge is that when you come in, and I feel like this is maybe another, I don't want to say negative, but an opportunity, I'll say, from coming for Boo, or from Boo, is based on, it sounds like they had a system already in place and the management team felt it was working. Boo came in and just kind of gutted that and changed it, and may not have asked or presented reasonings on why this new system will work better than the existing system in place, and really trying to kind of make a case for that. Because typically, if you're going to gut something like that, there either has to be some kind of consistency of you seeing delays, of you seeing inefficiencies, etc., in multiple areas and positions that would justify you changing that to an entirely different system. And it doesn't seem that maybe that was the case based on how this is written. And so I think that can be hard, right? And to me, based on what I'm reading so far, it sounds like Boo had made multiple decisions, and or maybe just took it upon himself to make decisions that were more in line with the direction he wanted to go, and may or may not have consulted the LUNO leadership on some of those areas, right? And it's kind of took the ball and ran with it. And I think the challenge is that, and again, I would say this, if Boo had laid everything out, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I don't know. But let's say Boo laid everything out and he said, this is how I see running the Alliance, and this is what I'll do once I get there. That's entirely different before you're voted in compared to after you're voted in, and then you start doing all these things, right? Where it's almost kind of like, whoa, we didn't really know what we signed up for, and this isn't like really what we're down with, right? Because that's kind of what it sounds like to me in one breath. Okay. So next is reliable and teamwork. Despite his rigid leadership style, Boo was deeply committed to LUNO's success. He was always present, took the time to understand members' priorities, and worked hard to keep the Alliance engaged and motivated. Awesome. That is great. I think those are good qualities. And then the last one, LUNO moving forward. LUNO has faced significant challenges from the collapse of the war and mass exodus of so many valuable players to the ensuing uncertainty of what the Alliance would become. Then we get, oh wait, where's mine? Or even if it would survive another season. Those of us who stayed to rebuild did so for various reasons. But paramount was our desire to continue fighting and see what we were capable of next season, especially being at the forefront of G1 servers, joining the G2 groupings. It became clear in our first Zone 2 battles that we are still a solid team filled with dedicated and active as hell fighters who just want to show up and have fun together. Our performance this season shows we are still competitive even with only 100 fighting members. And so, our plan is to grow while maintaining the fun, spirit of fighting and community that made this season so much fun for our members, the same spirit that made nearly everyone decide to stay in LUNO for another season and that has brought in many new recruits, the spirit of what the new game should be. We're not building Noir 2.0. We're not aiming to be number one again in the game, but if we get there without compromising the standards of what our members want out of their gaming experience, then we'll enjoy the ride. All we want is an active, fun community and constant, respectable fights, never Diplo for an easy win. That's bold. And we are still dedicated to being competitive for Row, as both of our teams have won every match this season. We're open to anyone joining who fits this bill, T4 and T5 players alike. So here's a shameless plug. Anyone interested in joining, contact Aaron. Okay. So that's it. That's the whole thing. I will say this. I actually like the fact that, and it doesn't mean this has to be done all the time, but I do like and appreciate that LUNO opted to put out a joint statement and that it was something that came from their leadership team. Doesn't necessarily mean that every single person wrote something, but the fact is that up to everyone in the leadership team had a look over and approved it before Funk sent it to me. And so I like that approach. And as I said, you can run your alliance and your kingdom in various ways. And I don't necessarily believe that any one way is guaranteed, absolutely just success, 100%. I do believe that some methods and ways of structuring leadership can have higher percentage and lower percentage chances of success, and can also have higher or lower percentage chances in specific or particular areas. But I don't want to dive down that rabbit hole right now, maybe in a later video. However, what I will just say is I felt this was pretty illuminating, right? We saw some screenshots from Boo and YY. We saw some from the community. We saw some mentions from Boo himself in Gen Chat. We saw Boo's exit letter, and we heard from the LUNO leadership themselves. Now, I'll put it to you. What do you think about everything? Are there any parts that stand out to you more or less? Any points that I mentioned that you agree with, you disagree, why or why not? Let me know in those comments below. That's going to be it for me. And as always, if you have a story that you think would be interesting and you want to share that with me, slide into your boys' DMs, or you can go on the Discord and submit an anonymous form there as well. And if you're someone who'd like to provide some more context, and if we end up getting enough, maybe we'll do a part 2 on this. That's it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.